the next question I really wanted to put to Adam, which was, how would embracing ethical or eco methods of working support your company's profits, as a company is doing very, very well in the first year?
What you just said is part of it. What Christian said earlier was also part of it in terms of the way you look at your business and you run your business. What I would say is it starts with the core commercial proposition. You've got to be a good business manager. Just coming out with a great design is not enough. And the principles are the same all the way through the supply chain. So whether you're producing out of a factory or whether you're wholesaling or whether you're retailing, the principles are still the same. You've got to have a fine quality product and you've got to manage your costs. Very simple, basic economics in managing business. In terms of the ethical dimension around that, we've heard about how actually you can save costs by being efficient and effectively being environmentally friendly at the same time by doing so. But what I'd say is that the key thing about introducing ethical dimensions to your business is that at this point in time, in this state of evolution of the market and consumer awareness, is a point of differentiation. You can use it and leverage it commercially to your advantage. And that's important, but what you can't do, and I think we've heard this as well, and Melanie particularly, you emphasised the point about the fashionability. You can no longer, and I think it's happened in the past, trade the eco-worthiness for a lack of fashionability and get away with it in today's competitive marketplace. You just can't do it. So the product has got to be fashionable. Now, fashionable is one thing, but it's got to be accessible. So actually you're talking about a commercial, if you're talking about running a business, you're talking about a commercially viable entity. And if you're doing that, it means you've got to have some degree of scale. It doesn't mean you have to be as big as M&S to be profitable and sustainable as an entity, but you've got to sell a reasonable amount of what you're producing or buying in if you're a retailer taking in from the wholesale markets. And accessibility comes down to two things: that your designs aren't so way out that they're not there for mainstream adoption. There is a niche for people with way out design, but actually if you want a degree of commercial scale, they've got to be sensible. And secondly, price. If you get a degree of scale, then actually your cost base goes down through economies of scale, through efficiencies. So I'm saying, okay, if you're going to be ethical, great. You can use it in your marketing, in your brand proposition as a key differentiator in the marketplace at the moment. But you've got to still be fashionable and you've got to be accessible. Otherwise you won't have the viable commercial model. Just turning the question slightly to Adili, and I'm not trying to set myself against Melanie here, but one of our key sort of differentiators is we're not into fast fashion. We're into classic, what we call treasured items or timeless pieces that transcend seasons. They may last 2 or 3 seasons in terms of the fashionability, but the sort of thing that can last in your wardrobe a long time. And that's really kind of what we think of when we're sourcing our product. And that's probably something you might want to think about. Which model do you want to follow? And I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong. They're just different commercial propositions.
Following on from that, Adam, I just wanted to ask you, because many people might want to know, well, I encounter this all the time where people turn around and go, oh, I don't want being ethical or being this, it's not sustainable, I'm not going to make lots of money out of it, or my business is not going to grow out of this. But what's your viewpoint on that? Can you create a sustainable business being ethical?
I believe so, and many of you may have seen the press yesterday that Adili's hopefully going to the stock market towards the end of November. AIM, which is a junior stock market in London, in the city. That should, and if that comes away by the end of November, then it will give us enough cash to actually see us through to break even on our business plan. I think that is tangible evidence that in a short period, and given we've only been trading just over a year and I only wrote the business plan about 18 months ago, you can really create something quite powerful with ethics at the core. I think the time is right. The essence is that we've hit the right wave of consumer uptake, and I have to thank M&S in a very, very big way, because actually I think we're all benefiting from this kind of halo effect from the PR, which is great. So all the sustainable advertising, from the sustainable fish to the fair trade cotton socks, is fantastic, because what it does is it gets everybody thinking about it. And I think now is the time, if you're really serious about wanting to get into ethical fashion, to actually do so, because there's a groundswell of opinion. I just want to make one sort of cautionary point, which is I think this point about differentiation in the marketplace is, for the next few years, very, very important. If you cast your mind forward many years actually there's going to be a point in time where it is no longer a differentiator. And that takes you all the way back to fashionability and quality of your product, because ultimately if you haven't got a beautiful garment and you haven't got something that people really want with all their heart, then it ain't going to work. And also, everybody else is going to be that further advanced in terms of their ethics. So I think there'll be a point at which UK consumer will have a minimum standard of ethics required, and actually that's got to underpin the brand. And you'll see it flip over again, and fashionability takes centre stage. And ethics is an expected, if you like, hygiene level minimum standard.